welcome to channel ASL News, where we bring the news past and present to you. Today, our major story features the 132nd anniversary of the Oralism Milan conference that was held in the 1880s. Last month was the official anniversary, so we went on the streets to see what other people, if they had heard about the conference or their opinions that they had. Let's take a look at our results. In 1800, all the deaf educators got together to go to a meeting in Milan, Italy, and they were pretty much debating on two topics. One was that deaf students should only be allowed to use oralism, which is like lip reading, like mouth lipping, lip mouth, whatever that's called, mouth lipping, and like just like different ways, like they are forced to speak. Yeah, like they are forced to speak. And then the other one was sign. Well, once they had debated over the course of those couple days, they came to the conclusion that all deaf students should only be allowed to use the oralism method, and that signing would be banned, except for two countries, which was the United States and Britain. But due to that decision, sign language became known as bad. Do you believe in this opinion? Do you believe that deaf people should only
They should be allowed to use signs.
Why?
Because they can't speak English, and if they learn...
And then it was taken away from them in 1800s.
But think about the Chinese, too. If they want to travel America, then they have to learn a foreign country rather than their home country, and that's still the same as getting it taken away from them. You have to learn new stuff. You can't just stick with it.
It's astounding to hear how many have forgotten a major part of history, not only for the deaf, but for the hearing as well. Opinions are at the same rate and the same diversity as they were back in the 1800s when the Oralism Conference took place. Let's tune in to Brittany Black in Milan, Italy, where the conference took place in the 1800s to see what it did for our lives today in 2012.
Hey everybody, this is Brittany Black reporting to you from the homestead. I'm coming to you with the story on the Milan Oralism Conference and how it relates to our lives today. Let me ask you something, folks. How would you feel if English was banned from your school? How would you feel if you had no way to communicate with your friends? You want to find out what they're doing this weekend? Impossible. You want to know what's for lunch? Too bad. This is what deaf students had to go through in the late 1800s. Many deaf educators came together to vote on the use of sign language in deaf schools, which was how most students communicated. Sadly, they voted against teaching and even using this form of communication, leaving students languageless. Just imagine it. People didn't look at the travesty back then because of the minority of the deaf. The men who voted to take away sign language were ignorant and couldn't see what it would be like because they couldn't put themselves in the shoes of the deaf. The effects of this didn't last long, though, as it was soon reversed. Even so, the scar left by men who got together and decided they could make life decisions for others will always stay in deaf culture. Now I beseech those of you out there tonight, have respect for others' language as you would hope others would have for yours. That's all for tonight. Here's me, signing off.
Thank you, Brittany. Luckily, the decision that was made back then still is in effect today. In July 2010, the NAD president, Bobby Best Goggins, stated, "The formal rejection of the 1880 resolution made in Milan by the ICED realizes a dream that we've had for 130 years. Together with the ICED, we have taken the first steps towards a beautiful bilingual future of cooperation and mutual respect." Unquote. Thankfully, we have been able to pass through this barrier and allow the deaf to have their language back. According to handspeak.com, quote, "Sign language wasn't reintroduced or embraced until the 1970s, unquote. Even that was 90 years without sign language for the deaf. 90 years without a way to communicate. 90 years where they had to focus on oralism only and not be treated in a way that they deserved. Even though the conference was a horrific experience that ultimately destroyed the identities of the deaf and the language of the deaf, it brought the deaf community together and better able to stand up for themselves, especially when Elizabeth Spencer became president years later. Along with the Oralism Conference, other major events happened in the 1880s. For example, the founding of the National Association of the Deaf, or the NAD, the Chinese Treaty, which suspended, limited, or restricted Chinese immigrants to come into America, and Helen Keller was born. The 1880s seemed like a time where discrimination was used against all races, all religions, and all languages. This discrimination was not acceptable. Luckily today, we have sign language, and we are better able to communicate with the deaf. If it wasn't for this oralism conference, I don't think many would consider how important it is for sign language to be for the deaf. We are so grateful America stuck up and said that they needed to use sign even though it was banned. Thank you for joining us and watching Channel ASL News tonight. I'm Krista Hamilton, signing off.